And like to welcome Paul Cox, President of Wabusk Air Incorporated, who will be before the committee this afternoon. And our clerk has an oath or affirmation for you, Mr. Cox.
So
welcome.
the Bible's in front of you there, Mr. Cox.
Yep.
You just put your right hand on it, or left hand, whichever is better for you.
Left hand's there.
Sure. Mr. Cox, do you solemnly swear that the evidence you shall give to this committee touching the subject of the present inquiry shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Very well. You have some time for an opening statement if you want to make one, and otherwise we'll go to...
Yeah, I don't have a whole bunch. You know, on a whole, the experience with Orange has been getting better over the last, maybe last year. Since we've actually signed a contract, we've been on renewals up until approximately 6 months ago. We've been renewing contracts, and things haven't changed a whole bunch up to then. But like I said, everything's got better. There's a few things, that can't be undone. Back when we first started to bid to work for Orange, there's the issues of us, all the operators having to hand over proprietary information. Having said that, stuff like that can't be undone. So we had to hand over some proprietary information, which is ongoing, but nothing to do with the function of Orange and how we operate now. That's behind us. It is what it is. A lot of stuff's been addressed. Our big thing is we wanted to go ACP when we first went in as well, when we entered into negotiations with Orange, and it wasn't an option because Orange kind of gobbled up all the ACP and all for lack of a better word, they took all the, seemed to take all the ACP positions, and they hired a lot of people. And so there was nobody left, and so we didn't have a chance to participate in the advanced care program. And having said that, we had issues a while ago where Orange was stealing a lot of carrier staff, which I don't see as being a problem anymore. We don't have such a changeover. So again, I see things going in the right way, to be honest. There's glitches. It's a big outfit. It's a big, there's a lot of stuff. But, really, like I said, things are changing for the better there. In the beginning as well, we carried some pretty heavy balances for Orange well past 9 days, well into 6 figures. It's not an issue anymore. Everything, I think, is pretty much up to 90 days. We have no real complaints there. So, and other than that, that's really all I have to bring.
Very well, thank you. And we'll start with 15 minutes per caucus. And I understand we're going to start with the NDP. Ms. Jelinas.
You are. It's a pleasure to have you here, Mr. Cox, and thank you for coming down. How did you come down?
You don't want to know. I started out yesterday morning to get on a flight, and it was weathered out. And then the second flight was full because the first flight was weathered out. I ended up on the train last night, arrived into Cochrane at 10 o'clock last night, drove all night, got in North Bay about 3 o'clock, slept for a few hours, and drove the rest of the way down this morning. So if I look baggy-eyed or I get cross halfway through, it's because I haven't slept a whole bunch. So
I appreciate all the effort you've made to come down here, and we thank you for being here today. I enjoy your opening statement. You were there before. You've seen the changes, and you are still there. In your view, if you were in control of it all, would you have some recommendations yet to make things better?
I really believe it belongs back kind of in the public sector the way it was before. Maybe a few key bases that, that somebody doesn't want to be or whatever. If there was a reason why somebody wouldn't man them or take them or want them, and the province felt the necessity for that to be a base, that then they do and step up and do what needs to be done. There's been a lot of money spent on a lot of airplanes and a lot of our backs ridden and work taken from us. We could have grown our businesses substantially if, myself and most of the other carriers probably, if from day one we were awarded the stuff we bid on and then the advanced care and furthermore, but all in all, like you said, it is getting better, so.
What percentage of your business right now is patient transportation?
I'd say close to a fifth, a quarter to a fifth.
And the other 4/5 you do?
We're based in Moosonee, obviously, as you know, so we're a hub community or a railhead community, so everything north of us is by air. So we service basic charter to freight to whatever. We're just an air taxi. If it goes in an airplane, we'll do what we have to do. So
to get it there and get it back?
that's it, yeah.
Okay. And right now you have you were able to recruit and retain a stable workforce. You talked about the problem you had when Orange first came.
We have a pretty good workforce. We have a lot of our employees are full-time employees of Orange, and they do rotations, and they'll come to us on rotations. So we have a lot of full-time, part-time people that do rotations. Advanced people are still impossible to get, and I believe even Orange is waiting for advanced people, to be honest. It's something to do with the training, the bridge course. But I believe there's something in the works with that where they're trying to get one of the colleges to help with that. So hopefully in the future that problem goes away as well. So there is a shortage of advanced care paramedics, which I don't believe is Orange's fault. It is what it is again. But there is being steps taken, I think, to resolve the issue. But no, we don't have the transfer of patients. Like at one point, we had lost 12 medics in 1 year to Orange. I would say we've had the same crew now for the last year and a half or so, and then some guys longer than that. So no, it's really slowed down substantially.
So you feel your workforce is stable now?
I believe so. Yeah. Especially for primary care, yes. Advanced care, no. There's lots of room for. We need medics. Ontario needs medics.
And you are in support of having a bigger role played by the colleges, not just having Orange train, but also having...
I would prefer that anything that Orange doesn't have to do to be in conflict should be in somebody else's hands, to be honest. That just makes sense to me.
And your primary care medics, they were college trained, and then...
A lot of them college trained, came in, they have to be landed, then a lot of the guys we have now actually came to us first. We certified them for air. They went to Orange because of the rotation benefits guys. A lot of guys don't want to live in Moosonee, so we get rotation guys or girls. But yeah, most of them are full-time employees of Orange, part-time of ours, even though they're on rotation. Yes. But we are filling our roster. We don't have an issue with that right now.
Okay. But they happen to be full-time employees of Orange, but they come and do shifts for you?
That's correct. They come on, they work with Orange. The average guy is 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, so they come to us on their 2 weeks off.
Okay. Do you deal with Argus at all for auditing?
Absolutely. We actually hold a platinum rating with Argus. They're coming up next week or the week after again for, I think, probably our third audit with that particular company.
How much does it cost to have a platinum?
You can't buy it. All platinum status means is that you meet or exceed standards as per the regulations. So what they do is they audit you much like anybody would audit, and they take the standards, which is the law, the rules and regulations of air, and they audit your manuals and your training files and everything, and they audit it to that, and either you're in compliance, not compliant, or you exceed the compliance standard. Kind of like an MOH audit, but with airplanes.
And do they actually come to Moosonee?
Absolutely.
How much time do they spend?
2 days.
And do they actually look at your aircrafts, talk to your staff? What do they do?
Absolutely, yeah. It's a full. There's interviews of key personnel. It's full audit. They go through everything. It's the same as Transport Canada walking into your hangar and going through it.
And just because I am a little bit ignorant, what's the relationship between this audit and Transport Canada?
Absolutely nothing.
There's no relationship between the two?
Argus is, Transport Canada audits us as they feel. Argus is put in place by Orange, and Orange has decided they want somebody to keep tabs on the operator, so to speak, I guess, their compliance, without relying on Transport Canada to do it, so they have initiated Argus to do it, is my understanding.
Oh, I see. So Transportation Canada could still drop into Moosonee anytime they want and do...
Yeah, there's a CTA, which is Canadian Transportation Agency, and then there's Transport Canada, which is the CTA governs fares and rights and wrongs. Transport Canada is legislation, like rules and regulations. The CARs, what we call them, the Canadian Aviation Regulations, and they govern that.
And so they could still come and audit you at any time?
They come, they spot audit, they show up whenever they get the itch that they don't want to be in Toronto or Hamilton anymore. They jump in the Citation or their airplane and they fly up for a visit. Yes, and they do it to every operator.
When was the last time that, so you say that Argus is coming to Moosonee next week?
Yes, I believe. Within the next 2 weeks. Before November, they're there. Well, so that's the next week, yes.
Yeah, and how often do they come?
Argus comes once a year, I believe. But they come based on what Orange, they're employed by Orange, Argus, is my understanding, because they're not even a Canadian company. They're actually an American company, I believe.
They come, they do their audit. Do you get to see what their audit is all about?
Well, we sit down, we go through it, and they tell us what happens is when you do an audit, you go through, they'll tell you whether you comply, don't comply, or whatever, and then any suggestions they have. So you get, yes, you get a debriefing at the end. If you have deficiencies or you have whatever, you're definitely made aware of it. And you have to correct and supply the corrections to them as well.
And are they useful? Have they brought forward suggestion that was useful?
They're good, good paperwork, good fences, make good neighbors. So, yes, it's a very good tool for an operator, in my opinion, yes.
And how much do they charge you to come?
They don't charge me anything. Or like I said, Orange pays. I have no idea.
Okay, so they just drop in, they do their work,
they call
show
us a
you.
month ahead or 2 months ahead, say they're coming, here's some dates, let's schedule, much like.
So they're coming in November. When was the last time before that they came?
It would be roughly a year, I would say, without looking at the calendar.
So about every year?
Yeah.
How about Transportation Canada? When was the last time they dropped?
They can be anywhere from 1 to 3 years. The last time they were up there, probably a month or two ago, stopped by for a visit. Full audit was probably 2 years ago with Transport Canada.
Okay. So I want to take you back in time. You've been there for a while. And I take it you know what has happened to Orange. Dr. Mazza is no longer there. The board is gone, etc. Yeah, we won't miss him. So before all this happened, did you know that something was wrong at Orange?
Something wrong, something wrong, maybe not, but would I do things that way? Absolutely. You can't. The government, I don't think, would ever run a business quite like I would run a business, or the next guy doesn't run the business same as me. So I don't know if that's kind of a loaded question. Anybody can find faults. It's easy to look back and say, yeah, you should do it like that, right? It's whether it's in actuality is correct or not,
Okay. And so let's say right now you would be made aware that something is wrong at Orange. Would you know what to do?
Depending on what you mean by something is wrong.
You think that there's a misappropriation of funds?
If I thought there was misappropriation of funds the day they bought the airplanes. What do you want me to say? I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Are you aware that there is a whistleblower policy at Orange?
Absolutely. We sign in on our contract that there is a whistleblower policy, and the whistleblowers are set harmless. Yes. And
do you know how it works?
I've never really dug into it. I went through it on the contract when we fill it out and look through, and I've got an understanding of it, I guess. Transport Canada has the same thing. A lot of agencies have a typical thing like that, yes.
Okay. I'll let it go on.
Okay. Ms. Morrow?
Oh, sorry.
You're both waving over there, sir.
I could just start, but lots of time for you, don't worry.
Okay. Go ahead, Ms.
I just wanted to explore, Mr. Cox, a little bit your opening statement, things are getting better. Could you kind of characterize what you mean more specifically? Is it an issue of communication? Are there certain...
At first, it took a very long time. When we very first started out, the frequencies of the work was there, but Orange kind of grabbed everything, and they just, whatever was left, everybody else got the crumbs. They seem to be a little better at divvying the pot up. The bills are definitely getting paid on time, or much, it's not unmanageable for us anymore. We've had, like I said, they're not taking our staff anymore. And that came, Ted, Rebecca, a few of the people we met with, and we had a committee started up at one point, but it fell apart. anyways, everybody that was on it shouldn't have been on it anyways. But anyways, there has been progress that way. You know, I mean, like, it's very hard to go to work when somebody's stealing your employees. But it all seems to have settled now, and yeah, I'm much more content now than I was, I can tell you.
So what about dispatch issues? Are you ever aware of an issue where
Yeah.
you're ready to go?
Well, dispatch, that's a whole new ballgame. That's actually one of my lists on my, I didn't even want to touch on it, because 793 is not really an issue right now because I think they're just bringing it back online. But yeah, there's lots of days we'll get a call from the call center and they'll schedule a flight for, say, 7 o'clock. We know that there's no way we'll be wheels up at 7 o'clock because that's shift change. So we know it can't happen before 8 o'clock because the 7 o'clock guys aren't going to do it and the other guys aren't coming in early. And you can't tell dispatch, you really have to watch what you do, but, you know, there's days like that. And I think they've gotten a little better at that again, too. They're starting to realize, you know, that you take delays and you take delays.
So you've been able to talk to someone about this issue?
Usually. I don't know if it's, you know, Ted Rebecca used to be kind of a go-to guy, and there's a new fellow in there that I haven't met yet. But, yeah, you know, we used to be able to accomplish stuff. It was pretty open-ended, you know, we talked, and you know, there was never anything major, you know. It was a big deal at first because what would happen is they would call us out, they'd start our duty days, and we know we're not going to leave till 10 o'clock. Well, they knock 3 hours of our day where we can actually go fly and generate revenue, and then they park us is what happens. So you lose 3 hours of your potential day. And now they're paying from the minute when you're scheduled to go. If there's delays, if there's a reasonable delay, we get paid a holding time, which is not a lot, but at least it pays to have our crews and everybody on standby, and it's something. And before you never got a delay until after your wheels up on your first leg. So.
And this was something you brought to their attention?
Well, it's something I think it's very pronounced in Moosonee because it was because we have the helicopter hops. Most places don't have that, but being the hospital on the island,
yeah.
Moose Factory Island, and everything had to do a hop. Like nothing could ever happen until the helicopter moved. And then staffing issues on the helicopter were a big issue for a while as well because there was lots of stuff that you know, they'd have a flight the next day from Moosonee to Kingston booked for us, but for some reason the helicopter couldn't go and they didn't have the boat in the water or the ice road wasn't in, then that call gets scrapped for us for the day. So we don't get called out of the barn, we don't go to work, we don't make any money that day.
But since you've been able to communicate some of these issues, there's movement.
Better.
Okay, I'll just turn it over to my colleague. Thank you.
Mr. Morrow?
Thank you, Chair. And we're going to try and save a bit of time. So if I'm going beyond 5 minutes left, you'll just give me a little nod or a wink. I'd appreciate it. Mr. Cox, thanks again for being here. Quite an incredible journey to get to Queen's Park today, and we appreciate it.
I've never been, so I guess we'll say it was worth it.
Yeah. Well, take a little time and walk around. It's an impressive place.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit about the name Wabusk Air. What's the
Wabusk is a polar bear and Cree.
Polar bear and Cree. I thought there might be a
Yeah, in 1995 we started out. I started the business one airplane all by myself.
Yeah.
And here we are today.
So your opening statement was captured, I think, where the committee's been for quite some time. There were problems, and now it's gotten better, which...
certainly not perfect, but definitely better.
Sure. Never will be. I would tell you, as sure as you're sitting here today, in 5 years, there'll still be things that people would consider can be done to make it better, but we're happy to hear that it's improved significantly under the new administration. By your definition, you described your operation, and I think Ms. Yellen asked you a question in regard to and I was asking other deputants the same question in weeks past about the percentage of your business that is allocated to Orange Ambulance. I think you said a quarter to a fifth?
Quarter to a fifth.
So the rest of it, you are charter, you're a passenger carrier, you're a freight carrier, you're doing everything else. So I'm interested in when Argus, that's doing the audits, the compliance piece on behalf of Orange at no cost to you, they visit your operation and they audit the piece that is Orange.
I think I see where you're going with it. If you the rules and regulations are the rules and regulations, whether you got a cow in the back or whether you got a patient in the back, whether you got a pop and chips or whatever. Our rules are our rules. So it doesn't matter the fact that they're auditing us to Canadian aviation regulations standards.
No, I understand that. I am going slightly different.
Okay.
You're kind of onto it. But your aircraft aren't all the same.
No, that's correct.
So the aircraft that is dedicated to the Orange work is obviously configured differently than the non-Orange aircraft. So when Argus shows up on behalf of Orange to see that you're compliant, they're focusing on the aircraft that are dedicated only to Orange.
Not so much even the aircraft, the rules and regulations and the standards.
Okay, so your entire...
They'll look at the airplane, they'll have a general look.
Yeah.
They will check our maintenance schedules on the equipment that's dedicated for the contract. Like for the life port, there's a maintenance schedule to it.
Yeah.
But they...
So it's less about the aircraft, but it is about the aircraft?
It's a little bit about the aircraft. It's mostly about compliance with rules and regulations.
Of Orange.
Of
Okay.
Transport Canada.
So
Orange
Argus
doesn't give
is-
us a set of...
Okay, well, that makes my point. So that's kind of where I'm trying to get, I guess,
Okay.
is that because you're... And then Transport Canada still comes in.
That's correct.
And so...
If you're
as
asking
in-
if Argus is a redundant and unneeded...
You're like, he's like an Italian. He's never going to let me
Okay,
finish, but I love it.
see
I
where
love
you're
it. You
going.
got, no, you got it perfectly. That's
Okay,
exactly what I'm doing. Yeah.
It's a nice tool for us.
Yeah.
Is it really needed? No.
Well, but I wasn't going to suggest that, though. We're on the same page, but just slightly different again. So I wasn't going to suggest that the work of Argus is redundant. But what I was going to conclude is that with what's being done from an oversight perspective now, as an Orange contract and as a regular carrier subjected to Transport Canada regulations, you in fact have more oversight than somebody who's not doing Orange work.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We'll say about that.
Okay, very well. We'll move to the opposition. Mr. Klees.
Thank you.
I've been warned.
I beg your pardon?
I've been warned.
You've been warned? Oh, have you? By Mr. Derek Worry, by any chance?
By who, sorry?
Mr. Worry?
No.
No.
No, Derek's good. He's all right.
I'll give you.
I think Mike and I are going to take you for a beer after. He's a real northerner, Mike. I think we're going to take him out for a beer.
I'll give you 5 minutes to tell me what you've been warned about.
I'm just joking.
Well, let's get to work. You indicated that the audits by Argus aren't paid for. That you don't have to pay for.
That's correct.
I have an email here that was sent by Mr. Ryan Call. That's Kahl. Do you know him?
No.
So he is the Northeast U.S., Ontario, Quebec, Newfoundland, Europe, Asia, South America sales manager for Argus. And here's an email that was sent to one of the other SA providers. It's dated July 13, 2012. It says, I'd like to touch base with you regarding an opportunity to add Argus Platinum rating audit to the Orange audit.
Okay.
We will be conducting at your operation. Argus rating brochure is attached. I have a copy of it here. I'm sure you have one too.
No, I don't actually. I've been verbally told by when to do it that we have the platinum status. I have not got the certificate.
So interesting. Here's what it says. Now, maybe you're getting a special deal. I don't know.
I'm not paying anything, so you can go where you're at with it. I'm not
Okay.
paying. I wouldn't pay for it. What that platinum whole thing is, when you bid work in the U.S., if you don't have a rating from Argus, basically, especially to work for the government, you will not work for them. In Canada, it really doesn't mean anything because they're not even really a Canadian company.
So here's what the email says about this platinum rating. Argus auditors will be on site performing the Orange audit. I can offer, and I'll not mention the name of the airline, but actually I will table this with the committee so you'll know. This happens to be Thunder Airlines. So the opportunity to add on Argus Platinum rating at a significantly reduced price. So here comes the deal.
I haven't seen. They haven't offered to me. They haven't been to me yet.
Here comes the
They might
deal
be coming.
to Thunder Airlines, to the point that was made earlier, because I think it's important that this committee understands the integrity of this platinum rating. The prestigious Argus Platinum rating is an independent third-party quality and safety review of your operation for global buyers of air charter. To complete the Argus Platinum rating, we will need to add on one additional audit day onto the Orange audit. There are some costs to Thunder Airlines for the additional time on site. The audit cost is $3,250 US, with zero additional auditor travel expenses. bracket. Typically, the 2-day Argus Platinum rating audit is $8,950 plus auditor travel expenses. So you're getting a real deal here.
Absolutely. I'm not paying it, but sure.
In addition to the $3,250 audit fee, there would be a $150 per month check data fee for maintaining and distributing your data associated with the Argus rating. I'm sure you probably have some questions regarding the Argus audit standard and the Platinum rating requirements. I'm available for your return. Regards, Ryan. So the reason I wanted to just put this on the record is because it seems to me that we have here a rating agency, a for-profit company, that makes its business auditing operations such as yours.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that I, as an operator, can actually buy the prestigious Platinum
I wasn't
rating,
aware of that until you just said that. So,
what does that tell you? That you would you buy it?
no, because for me, look at where I operate out of, for starters, which is Moosonee.
Right.
My clientele there is my clientele. My clientele's been using me for 15 to 20 years.
Right.
I never had that plaque hanging to the last when I started one airplane. I own 8 or 9 airplanes now.
Right.
I didn't have that plaque hanging on the wall then, and I am where I am. I'm not spending $3,000 or $5,000. I'm not spending $10 on it.
Sure. But in your opening statement, you made reference to the fact that you're going to be
But
getting
that's my
a
chief.
Platinum
Actually, it's funny you say that. My chief pilot called because he was not going to be able to make the Argus audit, and he was able to shuffle the schedule so he could get out there. He actually flies part-time for the OPP as well. And they told him that we, from our last audit last year, all he mentioned that is we had the Platinum status. And that's what I'm going on. That's why I said I only have it verbally. I do not have it on paper, and maybe that was the lead into their sales pitch when they show up here this time. As of now, I can 100% say to you, I do not have or have been not offered to buy Platinum status.
All right. And you've told us that you're not going to buy it.
I'm not going to buy it anyways, no.
All right. Reference was made by Mr. Morrow to the Transport Canada inspections, audits that they do.
Mm-hmm.
And M&R does audits as well, correct?
Absolutely. They usually inspect a new aircraft when it comes online if you want to do government work.
Correct. So typically, Transport Canada and M&R does what would be referred to as operations audits. And
Yes.
those
They can.
Yes.
I've never had M&R where they've inspected our aircraft. We've never had M&R actually do an audit on us, but
Okay.
they have inspected aircraft to go to work to the safer fires in the summertime. They've inspected aircraft, and they usually don't get an audit and do an audit on your boats.
All right.
They do have the authority to if they'd like.
When was the last time that you had a Transport Canada
I
audit?
think 2 years ago.
And what were the findings of that audit?
Oh, I know we had quite a few findings.
Okay. Can you give me an example of some of those findings?
A lot of it was quality assurance, new stuff that was coming out, quality assurance SMS, stuff that the Transport Canada was very vague on, whether they were actually ever going to implement SMS and stuff like that. So it was hard to get to know whether you were going to need to do it or not do it. And it's still kind of up in the air. We have SMS, but we don't have SMS as per the other air operators like Air Canada, like big companies. We do it the same style, but it's not the same.
Yeah. So for the benefit of those who may not be familiar with SMS, that essentially is the
Safety management system.
right. That actually is delegated to you as a carrier to conduct your own audit. You fill out a checklist. You send it to Transport Canada.
No, you keep it on file. They come and they review it when they do their audit.
Okay. So you don't even have to send it out.
No.
Okay. Are you required, or is there a requirement that you send that to Orange?
No.
So Orange doesn't even ask you for a copy of your SMS audit.
No.
Do you think it would be wise if they did that?
They should, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Does Orange audit you for compliance to the contractual obligations in your agreement with them?
I don't know. Not 100%. No, I don't know.
Have they ever?
No.
Yeah. That's the testimony of other SA carriers as well, which quite frankly is disturbing to me because you have extensive contractual obligations under your contract,
Mm-hmm.
and one would think that Orange would be interested in ensuring that you're actually in compliance with those standards. Wouldn't you think so? Would you
Sure.
agree? But they don't. Can I ask, how close are you located to an Orange office, an Orange base office?
Base house?
Yeah.
500 feet.
One would think that it might be convenient to walk the 500 feet over to your operation and
I don't know if the guy that's there is qualified to do it. He's running his own show, right? I don't know. Listen, I don't know what you want. You can speculate all you want on Orange with me. I don't run Orange.
no, but you do work with them and for them
I
under
work for a lot
contract.
of people.
Pardon?
I work for a lot of people. I work for anybody who will hire me and pay me.
Let's talk about that. We understand that you respond to an RFP. Under the terms of that RFP, it's my understanding that your aircraft is required to have TCAS.
TCAS and TAWS, yeah. We turn into
Okay.
a pumpkin at either midnight tonight or midnight tomorrow, whatever the date may be, because our 180-day grace period is up. We're scheduled to go in to get an avionics upgrade, but it's hard to get into an avionics shop.
Sorry, you know what? I missed all of that.
Okay.
Can you help me to
We're
understand what you
as
just
of
said?
tonight at midnight, our 180 days from when we signed the last contract with Orange, actually the first new one that hasn't been an extension, so I believe it's either tonight at midnight or tomorrow at midnight, our 180 days is up on the extension to have this equipment installed on your airplane.
And did you get it installed?
I just told you. The 180 days is up. I'm scheduled to go in, but I haven't been in yet. So no, they're going to park us in a day or so.
They're going to fire you in a day.
They're
or
going
so.
to park us. We'll go back
Park us.
online when we get the equipment put in the airplane, I'm sure.
So it's been 180 days.
Yes.
They awarded you a contract. You've been flying without this equipment.
It was in the contract that you had 180 days to do it.
Okay.
Why haven't I done it?
Yes.
Because I've had a guy land one of my airplanes gear up, a 12,000-hour pilot, 2 crew, day VFR. For some reason, decided that he wasn't going to put the gear down that day, so we've been short an airplane. We've bought some airplanes. In the whole turnover to replace an airplane, we have not had time to pull one offline to send to the avionics shop, and that's it's the dollars and cents of it.
Why do you think Orange is requiring this equipment?
Because that's when they bought their Platuses, it was standard equipment, and so the equipment list came out of the Platus. It's not mandatory by law for a 703 operator to have this equipment. It's suggested that terrain awareness is most effective in mountainous terrain. Ontario is not mountainous terrain. Therefore, that's why it's not the law through Transport Canada yet.
But obviously Orange considers that it is important. I mean,
Well,
after
I think
all,
when they got the-
you're in the air ambulance business.
Sure.
It's not just your life. It's not just a
We have
contract.
redundant systems. We have a radar altimeter. We have altitude alerters. It's not like we're just flying around. We fly air routes with minimum altitudes. Everything is done to a rule. Like everybody else in the country gets the job done every day safely, the way they've done for 30 years. This stuff here is nice, and we're going to put it in because the contract says we have to. But let's be realistic. There's 90% of the country is flying around without it.
The reason that Orange requires this is that the TCAS actively interrogates other transponders to look for possible traffic conflicts
That's
and recommends evasion actions,
Sure.
right? One would think that in an air ambulance operation, that would be very
You would think,
important.
but you know what? When you're flying IFR, you're in controlled airspace. You've got airspace 500 feet below you blocked, 500 feet above you, and you are always protected. You're in a radar environment, and the controllers know where you are all the time under IFR, and you are controlled. It's a backup to a backup.
God, I tell you, I'd want the backup to the backup if I was
Sure, whatever.
if I was a passenger, especially in an
If it
air
was
ambulance.
that important, and the Transport Canada would have it, it would be the law.
Well, it's the law with Orange because they put
And
it in
there you
as
go.
a
I
requirement.
didn't say. I said we're going to do it. I'm not denying the fact. I don't know what you want on me. Don't beat a dead horse. I'm telling you.
No, please. I'm not trying to be difficult.
Well-
Here's my point. My issue is not with you. My issue, quite frankly, is with Orange and Orange management. Because if, in fact, they are saying that this equipment is critical and make it a condition of the contract, then, quite frankly, I wouldn't be giving you 180 days to install the equipment while you're flying my patients around. I'd be saying, get the equipment installed, we're going to inspect it, we'll make sure that it's there and that you're complying, and then I'll give you a contract.
And I can appreciate that. But I think that somewhere along the line, somebody realized that the equipment list that they said of necessary equipment you had to have in the airplane changed, and it all came the day they ordered their Pilateses. And then, okay, where are we going to come up with what standard are we going to set for everybody? So they bought these airplanes, here's what they had, here's what everybody has to have. So somebody else did the work for them. Yes, it was maybe poor management or whatever, but maybe that's why they've deemed it's not so important. Maybe somebody realized somewhere along the way we can give 180 days to get this done because we arbitrarily said that this equipment had to be in there. And for us, it's $200,000 a copy per airplane to upgrade.
And of course, okay, a number of the other SA carriers have it installed, and the concern is that there's not a level playing field. And what other SA carriers are saying, if I had to go out and spend this money in order to get this contract, why should I be disadvantaged against another carrier who's able to carry on without it, right? So that's the issue.
I agree, and hence the 180 days. No, I didn't put that in there, so that's there. I can't get on the boat.
I understand.
And I honestly respect at midnight tonight or midnight tomorrow, whenever our 180 days is up, and they tell us that we can't play again until we're good to go. I respect that. That's
here's my
contract.
question. I hear you. Here's my question. Now you get grounded at midnight tonight, and all of a sudden you're not available for an emergency call. What happens? And how responsible is it of Orange that they haven't inspected you prior to the deadline tonight at midnight to know that there's someone who's going to be able to fill in for the carrier who's now all of a sudden grounded?
We have been in correspondence with them since we've seen the difficulties when we bought our airplanes in the end of August, when we bought our replacement airplanes. We have been in correspondence saying that we're getting close and we're probably going to run through the deadline. So they know. I'm hoping they have a contingency. There's always another carrier sitting just waiting to have some gravy, and that's what it's going to be for somebody else. They're going to come in and take our work for a while.
Well, we hope so, sir.
And I'm sure they will.
Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll move on to the NDP. Ms. Jelinek.
All right. I just want to, did you want to ask a question?
Well, first, I just want to let you know that my son's in the AMT course up in Canada, so if you're looking for some help in a couple of years,
there you go.
And I just thought I'd put that in there for my
Good
son.
stuff.
Mind you, the AMT course, my wife refers to it as the ATM course, because every time she goes up there, it costs us some money.
For sure.
The average audit, whether it's done through Argus or Transport Canada, are they comparable or are they just totally different?
Transport's a little more hound dogish. Transport's more. It depends whether you got a maintenance audit or a commercial and business audit. Like whether one's the side of maintenance or one's the side of pilot regulations. And there's two. They're broken into two separate sections. The maintenance stuff is more getting focused towards the quality assurance and SMS, basically the policing of yourself. And what they do is they come in and they audit our audits, whereas the commercial and business side, they come in and it's that side of Argus is pretty much the same. So the Argus is probably a little more thorough on the maintenance side for the whole system.
Yeah.
Where, like I said, Transport Canada hits a little more just based on the quality assurance and the safety management system. And yeah, so it's they're close.
So if you had to differentiate between Argus and Transport Canada, how much under Argus is it specifically Orange concentrated? How much of it is specifically geared to Orange, which you don't have any, which is not
really
effective?
nothing specific, because even Transport, when they come in and they'll look at anything that's equipment in the airplane has to be in there under an STC, like a supplemental type certificate, has to be, and Transport Canada will look at the same records, and basically that is the same. There is no deviation between Orange and Argus, and in regards to Orange, there's no.
All right.
Could you repeat the price of a TAWS? How much did you say it's going to cost you?
It'll be $200,000 an airplane. We're putting TAWS and TCAS, but we're putting a whole bunch of other stuff in. But if we put those, problem is when you put those systems in, they need systems to run on. And you can either have one that's going to last 10 years or 20 years, hopefully. So we're putting stuff in that's hopefully going to stay compliant for 20 years. So you could probably do it bare bones for 80 to 100,000. It's going to cost us too.
Wow. Okay. I want to take you back in time. At the time where Dr. Mazza was running Orange, did you know the man?
I knew him. I've got friends that know him, have maybe sold him a boat or two, and knew who he was and what his lifestyle was.
And in the field, what is their impression of him?
Visions of grandeur. I don't know how else to say it. He had a plan to take over the world, and if he had keep getting running, he probably would have did it.
Okay. How would you describe the new CEO of Orange?
I've talked to him a couple times. Seems like a down-to-earth guy. I haven't met him yet. I really don't know. He seems decent. That's all. You know, you can talk to him.
You said that who is your primary contact at Orange?
Right now it would be Ainsley Budasing, I think is his last name.
Okay.
We have a few. It depends on what area you're going to. You know, I mean, there's safety, which is another guy. But if I have a question about the contract or a question about something, I used to go to Ted Rebecca. I believe it's Ainsley now.
Okay, the person who replaced
Ted, yes.
Okay. And are you able to compare your relationship with Orange before and after?
No, Ainsley's just got in there, right? Ted's only been gone 2 or 3 weeks, so I have no idea where. I haven't accomplished anything with Ainsley yet, so I won't be able to tell you until I do.
Okay. You live and work in Northern Ontario. You serviced a number of fly-in-only communities.
That's correct.
Do you figure that the Government of Ontario does a good job at providing equitable access to the residents of Ontario that you also serve? Could we do better? Are we doing a good job? This is what I'm after.
Everything can be better.
All right.
Yeah, I don't, you know.
Where
I say, let's put it that way. It's you know what I mean. The rail is there. I guess that's, you know, there'll be questions whether Ontario Northland is going to be sold. You know, we're off topic airplanes and that, but it's an essential service, and you know, I mean, I think honestly, if the government steps away from that, they should be accountable and have to run it like a business, which they're working at a little bit now because they don't want to be sold, I think, or from what I see. But you know, we need essential service like that for sure, because if somebody gets in there privately, that would, you know, basically you've got a monopoly, and you've got you know, with the airlines, there's 3 or 4 airlines. With the rail, you've got one rail, and if you get the wrong guy, you know, it could be devastating to the small communities.
And basically, if the train wasn't there, you wouldn't be there either, because
train wouldn't be there either. No, I had to spend my $50 or $75 or whatever it was to come down on the train, just like everybody else, and I own a bunch of airplanes. So what's that tell you?
So if I flip it around the other way, I asked you, could we do better? We could always do better. Do you see abuse, or do we do too much? Are the people that you fly as primary care, did they need to fly? Could they have been handled a different way?
Well, I don't really know. We've got the whole issue with the patient transfer, so that definitely right now could be better, because in Moosonee we have our own special issues. Our town board right now, I don't know where their heads are at. They pulled out our public docs. I don't know if you guys have gotten any of that, but Jill's down here, so you might have talked to him. He had to go up and get some docs put in for us. Like, we've got 60, 70-year-old people that have to go every day to an appointment or whatever to Moose Factory. No docs to go down. The government, we do need a little bit of intervention there, and to get, you know, to provide service to Moose Factory and to Moosonee people, because they got to go over as well. So, you know, just somebody to leave Moose Factory to come and catch a train, they've got to take a boat taxi and then get off on the rocks and the mud and carry suitcases and carry stuff. There needs to be, I don't know what can be done, to be honest with that, but yeah, that stuff could use a little bit of attention.
And we're out of time, so we'll move to the government.
I might have got off on topic on you want to talk about airplanes, but...
Mr. Morrow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Cox, you've been in the business for a while. When did you say you started?
I started my own business in 1996.
And you always had some air ambulance work?
No.
When did you start?
I started Our first contract was probably 6 years ago, don't hold me right to that.
So right around Orange? Before Orange?
Actually,
just after
our
Orange?
first contract, it would have been at the inception of Orange, I think. Pardon me?
2007 from Mr. Worry.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So, but you started in 96, and up until that point, the only audits you had were from Transport Canada.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. I want to talk a little bit about this platinum audit piece. The email that was referenced by Mr. Klees from that particular carrier, one could be left with the impression that they didn't have a lot of choice in terms of whether or not they wanted to spend the money to get this designation. My question to you on the audit piece through Argus and this platinum designation is, you don't need it. You don't have to pay for it if you don't want it. And not having it doesn't prevent you from bidding work for Orange, for anybody else, for making you eligible for any contract. You simply can tell Argus, I'm not interested in the third day and your $3,000. Thanks for coming out.
Yeah.
Next plane out.
Yes, because
okay.
With Orange, like to be honest, I was surprised when she said it to Ryan, my chief pilot, like I said, when Wendy had mentioned to him, because we were not even entitled. We knew how we did on the audit last year when they went through, let's say, and we did meet or exceed. Like they go through the exit briefing and they tell you where you stood.
Yeah.
But they don't tell you overall anything overall than that. Like we don't see the final report because it's proprietary to Orange because Orange has paid them. So we never seen our final score from them or whatever. It went to Orange and we never seen it. We didn't have access to it.
Argus does the audit, they give the information to Orange.
Absolutely.
Transport Canada does the audit, they give the information to Orange.
No, well, Transport does an audit for Orange. Transport gives it to us or maybe whatever. Yeah.
Okay. So my point, though, to underscore this is that as a carrier, under the SA agreements, to bid and be able to provide work for Orange, you don't need this designation.
No, because I believe we actually worked the first 2 or 3 years before we ever had an Argus audit.
Well, that was the point of my first question, but you seem to imply that you only started around Orange, so there wasn't really a pre-Orange experience for you when it came to this sort of...
That's true, but our very first contract, like I said,
it's happened under the new administration.
It happened through the extension of the second or...
Gotcha. I got it. Okay. Well, that's good to know. Regarding the avoidance system, can you tell me, if I understood this TAWS, what you said?
TAWS is terrain awareness.
Training awareness.
Terrain?
Terrain awareness. That's what I thought.
Pull up.
Right. So it's about mid-air.
No, that's TCAS. That's collision avoidance.
It's terrain only.
One is terrain, one is collision. They're two separate systems.
Okay. The system is expensive, and as you've mentioned, it's being done because, in fact, Orange has raised the standard of care, I guess we could say, on the aircraft significantly because the Pilatus planes have this as a standard part of their equipment, and now they're bringing all the other carriers up to...
Except for they forgot the second engine.
Up to their level. Okay, fair point. Fair point. Okay, but nevertheless, so they're raising the bar, it's fair to say. There was an implication that, there's a bit of an uneven playing field for those that have the equipment and you who do not, and that you've somehow gained an advantage. I guess I could understand.
Everybody had till today to get it done.
Exactly where I'm going with this. Now, the other carriers, the other SA carriers, 5 total, 4 beside you. Can you give me a sense, if you know, and it's possible you won't, can you give me a sense of their opinion, appreciation, whether they feel that the TAWS is necessary? Is there in the industry, and you've clearly articulated that you think it's overkill, I think it's fair to say, but I understand from Orange's perspective that it's a backup to a backup, as you said. So, but did the other SA carriers have an opinion on it?
I don't know.
You wouldn't know. Fair enough. But in terms of a level playing field, I mean, that was left hanging as a comment. I mean, I want to be clear that everybody had the same 6 months once it was decided, And
The contract's all read the same as far as I know. I only
Yeah.
had mine, but
So here's the last point, and Mr. Klees made a point that I thought was absolutely fair right at the end. It was a point that I was going to ask if it hadn't been raised by him. And when you stand down tonight, and whether that's going to take 2 days or 8 days for you to get that equipment installed, what's going to happen to fill the gap when it comes to the provision of air ambulance out of your base?
they'll bring somebody from Timmins or
Thank you.
they'll do whatever.
So there'll be other aircraft, whether it's Orange aircraft, the Pilatus, or somebody.
Well,
And
yeah, see, we're not dedicated. Don't confuse.
Thank you.
Don't confuse standing offer with dedicated.
Yep.
We have an obligation to. Orange promises us 600 hours a year.
Yeah.
We fulfill that 600 hours a year. Anything over that, fantastic.
Yeah.
We're not dedicated. We're not a. You know what I mean? We're not.
Yep. I do.
We're standing offer. We're standing call. So
You're on standby.
we're not getting paid when we're not flying. So.
Yep.
It may be inconvenient for somebody.
So
coming
the
from somewhere
point I
else.
want to be clear on here is that because you're standing down to have this aircraft upgraded, there is not going to be a gap in the
In
provision
service?
of air ambulance service. Okay. We'll save some time, Mr. Chair.
Okay, very well. Mr. Klees, you have a couple minutes if you want to
Thanks.
ask a question.
With all due respect, I don't think you're in any position to say whether there's going to be a gap or not. Isn't that true?
Sure, that's fine. Yep.
You had the Argus inspection. As you say, that report goes directly to Orange. Have you had any feedback from Orange on that inspection? Never.
No, I just assumed if it was bad, they would have told us.
Either that or
nobody's
looking at it, and it gets filed.
Yes.
Would you not think that it would make sense? I mean, if I was in your position, I would at least appreciate getting some feedback from Orange on this audit.
Absolutely. But
Good or bad, right?
yeah, yes, sir. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
And again, I want to make it very clear that the target here is not the frontline people who are delivering services, and whether that's pilots or carriers or whether that's paramedics. My concern is that the problem that arose with Orange arose because of a lack of oversight and a lack of accountability at a number of levels, starting with Orange itself, their management, going to the Ministry of Health. And what I'm seeing, unfortunately, is that there continues to be this culture, this laissez-faire culture, that it seems that we have not learned many lessons.
I can honestly say that look how long it took us to be here.
Right. So thank you. I appreciate you coming forward. I appreciate your honesty. And hurry up and get that equipment installed.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. And if you've used all your time, so you have a few minutes left. You're good? Okay, well, thank you very much for making the long trip down from
Thank you.
to be here, and I hope you get some sleep tonight.
Pardon me?
Back to school.
Oh,
So we are adjourned.
Thank you.